Hi, everybody, and welcome to 20-Minute Tips and Topics. Today's topic is finding a faith community on campus. I'm here with Dana Ponsky from Consult with Dana, Your Guide to College, and I'm Nicole Walberg of Walberg College Counseling. Let's get started with today's conversation. What we're going to be doing is just having an open conversation today about finding a faith community on campus with Dana. All right, Dana, if you want to introduce yourself, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Dana Ponsky from Dana Ponsky Consulting Services and Your Guide to College. I am here today to kind of give you my insights about finding faith-based communities on campus, as well as navigating the college admissions process while taking into consideration your faith and your background and how important that can be to ensuring that you have a really meaningful college experience. So I have been a college counselor now for over 10 years, and prior to that I was working as a university administrator, and I have been a school-based counselor for a while and then transitioned over to an independent college counselor in the last couple of years. I love what I do. It's the best job ever. And I work with a lot of students from all over the country and overseas, and I have a particular interest in working with students with a background in Judaism who are interested in exploring that while they're in college, students that are also looking to lead a sober, clean life, looking for resources available to them, and then just helping students in general with whatever topic related to college admissions they need help with. I'm able to do all of it. So I love what I do, and I love helping students, and I'm happy that Nicole and I get a chance to do what we're doing each week for you all.
Absolutely. I love it too. Well, I'm going to go ahead and jump right into our questions, Dana, and I'm really excited for what you have to share with everybody out in the community who's watching today. So can you give us a sense of why you have an interest in helping students, especially Jewish students, understand the importance of finding the right faith community in college?
So I was the type of, college counselor where I was just like, gotta find a job. Because, when you're looking for a job, you just take a job wherever it is, as long as it's a good fit. And the first time that I became a college counselor, I was working in a Jewish high school. And I walked in not really knowing very much about, Judaism. I am Jewish, but not really a practicing, came from a household that was very culturally Jewish, but not religiously Jewish. And so working at a school that had a very strong religious connection to Judaism, I learned the importance of that foundation to making college decisions. And so over the course of the last 10 years, where a majority of my work has been done in Jewish day schools, I started becoming much more aware of the fact that a college experience has to be more than just academically a good fit, socially a good fit. Is going to be residence halls? Are there going to be fraternities and sororities? Are there going to be sporting activities? And also thinking about particular careers, I realized that one of the important aspects for a lot of students that I think a lot of people don't ask about is their religious background and how important or not important that is in the college decision-making process. So I have really taken an interest in finding out schools, not just, schools that cater to Jewish students and can really support them, but just a lot of different universities and colleges. There are colleges around the country that are faith-based and built on a foundation of faith, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be, if there is a Christian college, doesn't mean that that Christian college is going to work for every person who identifies as Christian. So I think it's very important on behalf of as college counselors that we really take into consideration religious background, religious practice, and what a college can do to help support that or grow that over the years that they're there. And so I've just taken a really strong interest in it and like to help students get through that, exploration process.
I love that. Awesome. Well, good. I'm glad we're talking about this today. So when you're thinking about that right fit that you were just alluding to, why are faith-based communities important in that decision-making process? Like, why is it important that you do take into consideration a faith-based community if that's important to you in that decision?
So I think that one of the things that what a lot of people know and yet don't know all at the same time is that the United States as a whole is one of the most religious nations in the world. We have a very, very large number of people who identify with either a monotheistic, theistic religion or many different other religions. And so because of that, I think that it's so ingrained in who we are as people that it's something we oftentimes take for granted. We don't talk about too much. And I think that when it comes time for college, we have to realize that when we go and find a school and we're looking for a good fit in a school, we have to look at all aspects of our life. It can't just be what's going to happen in a classroom or what the career is going to be down the line. I think it's really, really important that we look at who the person is. And I think that we have to honor the fact that we, encourage students to explore different ideas, different philosophies when they're in high school. A lot of students take world religions in high school and look at it from a very, historical background or philosophical background, but then they're coupling that with what they're doing outside of school. Are they going to church on Sunday? Are they going to synagogue on Saturday and Shabbat? Are they, practicing Islamic practices and really focusing on Friday as an important day within the faith? And I think that if you take those monotheistic religions, we really have a very large population in this country that are very much aligned with those three, especially, and it's really important that we don't remove them from the conversation, because I would say a majority of my students that I'm talking to, when I ask them about religion, they'll all tell me, oh, I go to church on Sunday, or, oh, I just recently was confirmed, or I just had baptism that I went through as a teenager because I found faith, or I had a bar mitzvah and decided that I wanted to go get confirmed at 16. There's all these different ways that I think religion plays a part in who we are as people. And we are exposed to that, whether it's academically or spiritually outside of school. And I think that it's important for us to go ahead and merge those together and have a really serious conversation, because like I said, college can be a time of amazing growth and exposure. And I think that if you want to be in a place where there is a really strong campus ministry and that fulfills so many different types of faith-based organizations, because you're interested in that, we want to be able to find colleges and universities that are going to be able to do that. And for other places where it's just not a part of the culture, because it's not of interest to you as a student who might be agnostic or atheist, you want to be able to find a community where there isn't going to be a consistent social pressure, where, conversation of, well, what are you doing on Sunday? Well, if everyone goes to church and you're not necessarily believing, you're an atheist and you're not believing in that, you might come into a little bit of conflict. So I think we do have to have conversations about where you're at today, where you want to go tomorrow, and understanding, the culture that exists on different college campuses to find the right fit.
Absolutely. Yeah. What you're saying reminds me of my own college search. So it's just really important. And I agree that it oftentimes is something that isn't included in the college search conversation, or you just take it for granted that that is going to be there wherever you end up going to school, without really examining what the infrastructure and support network is for faith-based communities at schools that you're considering.
And I will add that even in my own story, when I was in graduate school, I had come from a town in Connecticut where my family was Jewish, but that was it. We didn't really do too much. We were, very culturally religious in our home, but that was it. I lived in a town where the majority of people were Catholic. Went to college, got a lot of exposure to Jewish students, but didn't necessarily connect in that particular way. But I did find a certain level of comfort realizing that I wasn't the only one, the way I sometimes felt where I grew up. But when I went to graduate school, which was in Bowling Green, Ohio, I got there, and one of the first questions I asked was, are there any Jewish students here? And when I asked my professors that, I was really taken with the fact that they made an effort to let me know of the organizations on the campus, of other people that were on the faculty who were Jewish, so I could speak with them. And even though there was a very small population of Jewish students, this particular university and program did a really nice job of making me feel connected, because it was a nice reciprocal relationship. And so I think that for me, it wasn't really about going to synagogue and going to services all the time. It was just, am I going to be a party of one, or am I going to be a party of five? And it was a nice thing that people were aware that this was something of interest. And I got confidence that if there was another student that maybe was Muslim or Hindu or any other religion, would have been treated the same way on that college campus. There may not have been a lot of other Muslim students or students who practice Hinduism, but they may have felt comfortable because people were making an effort. So I think that's a really important part of what we're talking about right now.
Absolutely. So I got another question for you. Now that we've talked about the importance of that, what are some things that students and families should look for when trying to identify what's available at a college to help them decide if that college is a right fit for them?
So I think one of the most important things that a student should be able to do is, and I'm going to recognize the value that most students who are attending college attend public universities. And public universities are the universities that are within your own state or are state-funded institutions. And so in my particular case, I live in New York, and therefore the state university system is known as SUNY, or the city university system, which is in New York City, the CUNY system. So a lot of students in New York function within those particular colleges, and there's many, many, many to choose from. And so oftentimes what you're going to find is that those universities, because they're publicly funded, can't necessarily be founded on a particular faith-based community. But what they can do is support faith-based communities. So what I tell students is, you know, depending on what their background is, try to find organizations within your particular faith that you can identify on a campus. So for example, if you're Jewish, there's Hillel International or Chabad, which are two very large organizations that are found on college campuses. They do kind of cater to different students. Chabad sometimes will go and have more students who are a little bit more religious, conservative, or Orthodox, where Hillel tends to, you know, identify with Reform, conservative, and Orthodox sometimes. But you want to try to see if maybe those two organizations are on campus or one or the other. You know, there's Campus Crusades for Christ, there's the Catholic Student Union, there's many other organizations that fall within Christianity. So if you are a particular denomination within Christianity, I recommend, if you're aware, and say you're in your youth groups in church, and you know that that youth group kind of has a larger extension in college, try to identify the colleges that have chapters. And that's the way you're going to immediately start narrowing down. The other way to do it would be to look at, like I said, campus ministry offices. Whether you're at a private school or a publicly funded school, there will almost always be campus ministry. And that is usually faculty and staff who, or not faculty and staff, sorry, they are faculty and staff, but they are particularly brought to the campus as chaplains for the various denominations that are well represented on the campus. I think also something that can be helpful is that if you really love a university, but there might not necessarily be you know, a chaplain association on campus that is robust, you could also look to see what other churches or houses of worship are available within a very close proximity to the university or college community. Because like I said, you might find that there's not a large Catholic population on campus, but there's a Catholic church across the street. And for some people, that might be enough. Just knowing that there is the opportunity to go to services, to have priests or deacons available to you, to be able to go to confession if you need to, just to be able to have that, even though it's not necessarily a part of your everyday, you can still do that. So I think when you're looking at the college community, those are the first two kind of recommendations that I have, is identify organizations tied to what you already know of within your own faith community at home. And then on the campus, identify campus ministry services for the chaplains that are on the campus, and to identify which ones are available that might tie together with that as well. And I also think that you could look academically at certain programs within different majors. If there are philosophy majors, if there are religion majors, sometimes just having academic faculty who are very well versed from an academic point of view about certain aspects of or certain religions can also be a really good connector for some students.
Absolutely. I love that. Yeah, I think back to my undergrad experience, and even though, you know, my university was of one faith origin, it was Lutheran, they had opportunities for students to carpool and shuttle to all different churches and faith denominations, synagogues, and whatnot in the local area. So I really think that's a great recommendation. I you know, encourage our students to really look at what's available, but also think, you know, beyond the university walls, like you just encourage them to do, because there are plenty of opportunities in communities. We just need to know how to identify them.
And I think it's what you just mentioned is important, because there are a lot of institutions, particularly institutions that are tied to a Christian denomination, that are also incredibly welcoming to a multitude of faith-based communities that are even both within Christianity and outside of it. And so I have, in many cases, I have, students that I work with that are Jewish, and I will recommend a Catholic institution because that institution itself has a very large population of students that might be Jewish. But more importantly, the university has made a commitment to a certain sense of universalism where they're looking to accept people for who they are, as they are, and what they believe. And so they provide chaplains on campus. They might even provide, in the case of Jewish students, kosher food. They might provide for Muslim students food that's halal. So it's stuff like that where, don't feel limited that even when you do see a faith-based mission of a university or college, you don't automatically have to expect that it is precluding somebody who's not of that faith.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. A thought that popped into my head just now that maybe can further our conversation. One of the things that I found interesting when I was looking at colleges and as I continue to research colleges for students and families are some of the ways that a spiritual foundation in a college or university can influence a lot of the vocational development that goes on a college campus. And I'm not saying that it's better than or worse than a school that's not affiliated with a religious denomination. But I found it really interesting that some of the colleges I've worked at really focus in on vocational development in connection to not necessarily one denomination, but like a spiritual overall perspective. And I would like to put it out there for students who maybe have not thought about looking at a religiously affiliated university, no matter how tight that affiliation is or loose that affiliation is, that, not to cross those colleges and universities off of your list, thinking that they're going to force you into their specific worldview. It might just be that they're really looking at the care of the entire person in a way that another university isn't. Have you seen that? Is that something that you would?
I would say that one of the things that's really a popular sentiment that you'll find, especially in the monotheistic religions, but this is really, I think, part of religion itself in general, is service to others. So you'll find that in schools that have a very strong, faith-based community or have, a background that, a mission that is built within faith, I think that you're going to find a consistent message and expectation of service to self, service to others. There's going to be a lot of service learning opportunities. Community service might be built into the academic experience, the vocational development. And so I think that's, if you're a person who is really, has a very strong tie to the idea of, I want to be in a campus community that's really all about serving others, oftentimes you're going to be able to find that in a faith-based, missioned college or university. Again, might not necessarily be the exact same as yours, but again, it's not necessarily about the nitty-gritty sometimes. It's really more about the fact that, within Islam, Judaism, Christianity, and many of other religions around the world, it oftentimes is, in order to serve yourself, you have to serve others. And so I think that concept is so integrated in a lot of schools. Some schools, I think, do a lot better than that. And so for a student who really has a strong, guiding light towards that, I think you're going to be able to find that in a lot of different places. And I think that's an important part of this, of what you are able to do, not just, whether it's a public institution or a private school that is a religious affiliation, you're going to be able to find that. You just need to find the community that's going to support you with that.
Yeah, that's great. Well, we are approaching the end of our 20-minute time period. So are there any other takeaways or tidbits that you'd like to leave our audience with today?
I would just say to everyone that, again, when you're sitting with a college counselor, whether it's a school's college counselor, whether it's Nicole, whether it's me, giving yourself the opportunity to really don't always just talk about the academics. Really tell us about who you are as a person. If you really like to go to church, or you really like to, celebrate Shabbat, you want to be amongst, students who are really interested in doing the same things, it's really important that you share that information, that a lot of your college meeting time should be spent about what kind of community you want to be a part of. And we don't want to dismiss the fact that faith is a huge part of that. And so we really encourage not just you, but also, as college counselors, it's important for us to ask those questions and really be able to get a wide variety of options that are going to be really meaningful for you. And I think the most important part of it is that really being open-minded as students to realize that you as a student, like I said, could have such a really strong affinity to community service and find that in a faith-based community that's different from where you're at, you're going to walk away from your college experience with such a different perspective of things, which is going to help you academically and vocationally and just really kind of widen your worldview. And I think that that is all part of what the college experience is all about. And you essentially can start this as early as high school and start this not just for your own personal, but when you're doing the college admissions process, think about what it is, who you want to be and how you want to get there, and what support services, faith-based being one of them, is going to help you get there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us. I'm going to transition to the contact slide now, so hang in there with me. Let's see here. All right, so if you want to reach out to Dana to talk more about finding a faith-based community for your college search process, there's her contact information on the left. I'm Nicole Walberg of Walberg College Counseling, and my contact information is on the right. Please keep in touch with us. Follow us on Facebook, follow us on YouTube, and definitely check out our websites for our blogs. And then we will be posting more tips and topics videos coming soon. Thanks so much for spending time with us today, and we look forward to seeing you again on YouTube. Bye.
Have a great day.